Salutations, everyone. This is Chapter 3 of Web of Cruelty. Chapter 3. Morrigan is glad to be finally alone from her family. She sits on the ground near her house and starts playing with a small spider. For a few minutes, she thinks about what she will do next, and a young drow boy, who looks a little younger than her, walks to her. He says, "What are you doing?" "Just playing with the spider," she says, as she shows him the spider. He says, "Well, what's your name?" "Mine is Drofrin." "Hello, Drofrin. I'm Morrigan," she says. "Hi, Morrigan. It's nice to meet you," he says as he puts his hand in his pocket. "Nice to meet," she says, noticing that he's pulling out a dagger. She says, "What are you doing with that?" as she pulls a dagger from her pocket in fear. He slowly gets closer and suddenly strikes. She dodges the attack and cuts his arm. He groans, grabs her, and puts his dagger to her throat. "No," she yells as she elbows his stomach, and he instead cuts her arm. She yelps from the burning pain and kicks the dagger out of his hand. He tries to get the dagger, but she grabs it and stabs his stomach. He howls and coughs uncontrollably. "Why did you do that? Why did you make me do that?" she says as he is bleeding out. He coughs and answers, "I was asked to do it for Lolth. Why else would I?" She says, "I don't know, but who sent you?" "I'm not going to tell you," he moans as he coughs out blood. "Do you want me to put you out of your misery?" she says. "Yes, that would be preferable," he says. "Okay," she says as she slits his throat. "Goodbye." She breathes heavily as she looks at his lifeless body and feels guilt, but she justifies it as self-defense. However, she can't help but to feel joy in claiming her first victim, and her intrusive thoughts tell her to end more lives. She is both petrified and trembling as she stares at the blood-covered corpse, and she is deeply disturbed by the terrible thoughts in her mind. She goes back inside her house to put bandages on her arm. She wraps them tightly and tries to go back outside, but Elfrida asks, "Why did I hear screaming, and why are you covered in blood?" Morrigan looks down, sees the blood soaking in her robes, and says, "I cut myself accidentally." The conversation with Elfrida goes no further. Mephala must have heard them because she walks in from another room and says, "Are you sure, my dear?" Morrigan says, "Yeah, I think so." Mephala says, "You know, you aren't very good at lying." "Okay, I killed a boy in self-defense," says Morrigan. "I just didn't want Elfrida to know." Elfrida says, "What? You actually killed someone?" Mephala says, "I'm proud of you, Morrigan, but it's okay for Elfrida to hear this because she's strong." Morrigan says, "I know, but she's young." Mephala says, You should also know that I sent that boy to assassinate you." Morrigan screams, "What? Why? When?" Mephala says, "I didn't want Lolth to disfavor you, so I paid that boy to assassinate you right before we ate earlier, and I hoped you would kill him." Morrigan cries, "But I thought the prayer would be enough repentance." "Stop crying," says Mephala. "Lolth doesn't favor people just for asking for forgiveness." "You both know I'm still here, right?" says Elfrida. Mephala walks Morrigan to her room, closes the door, and says, "I want you to succeed, dear. I would have sent someone more competent if I truly wanted you to die." As she puts her hands on Morrigan's shoulders, she says, "Weak people don't survive in Menzoberranzan, and they're disfavored by Lolth." Morrigan is offended by this statement, but she knows her mother is being nice in her own way. Mephala whispers, "When you were little, the high priests suspected you of being weak, and they wanted me to kill you. I chose to let you live, so please don't make me regret that decision." Morrigan cries, "Okay, I'll try not to." They start hugging while Morrigan sobs. So that is the end of Chapter 3. Goodbye.